The jungle didn't whisper, it screamed. 6 Navy SEALs and 2 Delta Force operators were bleeding out in a kill zone with no way out. Ammunition gone, cover collapsing. A flare clawed into the night sky, bursting in a crimson bloom so bright it turned leaves into fire and faces into ghosts. It was the Phoenix flare, the last resort signal you never wanted to see. To their enemies. It meant victory was seconds away. But in the shadows of Caladur rainforest, someone else had been watching. Someone the team had written off as dead weight. They'd called her Specter 9 with a smirk, like a joke that didn't matter. She was supposed to be an observer, a desk jockey sent along to take notes while real operators fought real wars. No rifle, no heavy kit, no scars to mark her as battle-tested, just regulation gear, pale eyes that never blinked, and a silence too sharp to be ordinary. The SEALs had dismissed her before the mission even started. But in the next 90 seconds, 5 impossible shots would erase everything they thought they knew about who the most dangerous person in the jungle really was. Before we get there, remember, hit subscribe to Stories Unseen for more Navy SEALs, Delta Force, and covert sniper stories you won't hear anywhere else. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Hours earlier, before the flare lit the sky, their stealth RHIB slid through black water like a blade. Lieutenant Marcus Hale crouched at the tiller, shoulders locked, his eyes scanning where surf met stone. Caladur's cliffs loomed like jagged teeth, the rainforest pressing forward as if the land itself wanted to push them back. Salt air mixed with the thick, green smell of vines and rot. The Pacific could roar like artillery, but tonight it was holding its breath. And Hale knew when the ocean goes silent, it's because something is waiting. 200 meters to the beach, whispered Corporal Maddox from the bow. Voice nearly swallowed by the hiss of water and the heartbeat thrum of the engine. Sergeant Tanaka leaned forward, scanning the dark seam of sand. Clean break in the rocks. No movement. Looks clear. Hale gave a single nod. Cruise, you're with me when we land. Maddox, Tanaka, take the ridge and hold overwatch. The men tapped shoulders in silent acknowledgement. Controlled, efficient, ritualized. Every operator moved with purpose, except one, in the stern, almost unseen. Specter 9 sat with a stillness that wasn't fear, it was calculation, a presence out of place. And as the RHIB's keel scraped the sand, none of them knew the observer would soon become the ghost their enemies feared most. The RHIB slid up the sand with a sound of rubber against stone, a whisper too loud in the stillness. Lieutenant Marcus Hale gave a sharp hand signal, and his team of 6 SEALs plus the 2 Delta Force attachments moved like a machine, fins stripped. Rifles checked, rucksacks swung high, everything rehearsed, precise. No wasted motion. The jungle loomed ahead like a fortress wall, dense green swallowing the beach in silence. The mission was supposed to be straightforward. Verify intelligence of a rogue paramilitary syndicate stockpiling surface-to-air missiles deep in the Caladur rainforest. Mark the cache. Extract without contact. No heroics. Just another classified mission in the endless shadow war. But Hale didn't like the quiet. The Pacific could scream like artillery. Tonight it held its breath. That was worse. Behind him, the observer crouched low, her outline barely visible. Captain Arya Locke. Call sign Specter 9. Officially Joint Reconnaissance Evaluator. Reality, nobody trusted her. She carried no long rifle, no optics, nothing that screamed operator. Just a compact rucksack, a slim hard case strapped high between her shoulders. And those pale eyes that seemed to measure angles no one else could see. The SEALs had already named her the way warriors always do when someone doesn't fit. Ghost clerk, echo girl. Words muttered in the dark. Never in front of officers. Hale himself had shaken her hand 3 hours earlier. It was firm, exact. 2 seconds on the dot. No warmth, no personality. Just calculation. Stay on my hip when we move inland. Hale murmured over his shoulder. No wandering, no freelancing. If you see something, speak up. Otherwise, stay quiet. Understood, she replied, voice ironed flat by training that gave nothing away. They hauled the RHIB above the tide line and flipped it hull up. The surf faded behind them, replaced by the suffocating press of jungle heat. The air was thick, sticky, almost drinkable. Vines lashed their helmets. Roots clawed at their boots, and every step dragged them deeper into green tunnels that seemed designed to swallow them whole. Wedge formation, 50-meter intervals. We moved slow and quiet until the iron-claw shelves. Hale ordered. Sergeant Tanaka swept ahead with Petty Officer Ethan Cruz, their boots almost noiseless on the damp soil. Corporal Ryan Maddox and Chu covered the rear. Hale kept Specter 9 tight on his flank. Minutes bled into miles. The deeper they moved, the heavier the air grew, until every breath felt like soup. Insects should have been screaming, frogs should have been calling. Instead, silence, not natural silence, but something closer to anticipation. Tanaka froze, raising a clenched fist. The patrol halted instantly. He gestured to the ground. The leaves were too evenly spread, soil too freshly turned. Hale knelt, rubbing dirt between his fingers. Too loose, too deliberate. This trail's been prepared. Specter 9 spoke suddenly, her first word since landing. Her tone was low but carried, within the last 48 hours. Ground scraped east to west. Water runoff would cut north to south. Leaves are staged, not fallen. It's classic prep for an L-shaped ambush. Maddox gave a soft snort. You can read all that from dirt. Maybe HQ sent us a fortune teller. They don't teach fortune telling. She replied evenly, pale eyes scanning every angle. They teach reconnaissance. Hale studied her in the dim moonlight. There was no hesitation in her assessment. No uncertainty. Just cold fact. So you're saying we're walking into a trap? I'm saying this ground was shaped by people who know American patrol patterns. And they're waiting. Cruz laughed under his breath. Or maybe you've watched too many war movies. Hale didn't argue. Command was clear verify. Mark. Extract. He gave a curt nod. Duly noted. We continue mission. But as they pushed deeper, the silence wrapped tighter. Specter 9 moved like a shadow. Every step calculated. Every movement stripped of waste. She wasn't fumbling with her gear like the rest. She wasn't even sweating. Maddox muttered to Chu, she's moving like she's been here before. Yeah, and still not carrying anything that shoots past pistol range. Makes you wonder what exactly she's observing from. The trail widened into a clearing. Moonlight filtering down in a theatrical pool of silver. Limestone, or rather basalt walls, rose on three sides, funneling them forward into a choke point. Hale's instincts screamed. This was too perfect, too clean, too staged. And then the jungle erupted. Gunfire tore open the night. Disciplined arcs of tracers slicing the clearing into kill zones. The ambush wasn't sloppy, it was professional. Automatic fire from at least 4 elevated positions. Overlapping fields of fire that left nowhere safe. Contact left. Contact right. Hale roared, though every operator already knew. Cruz dove behind a log, muzzle flashing back toward the ridge. Tanaka and Maddox scrambled toward shallow depressions that offered barely 6 inches of cover. Chu fired blind toward the nearest muzzle flash. Bullets ricocheted off stone, sparks carving light through darkness. Hale yanked Specter 9 down behind a basalt outcropping. He expected panic, screaming, civilian freeze-up. Instead, she slid with him smoothly, already scanning the ridgelines with unnervingly calm precision. Rounds punched into Cruz's leg, dropping him flat with blood pouring fast. Medic Hale shouted automatically before cursing the squad had no corpsmen. Specter 9 moved before anyone else. She crossed open ground under fire, dragging out a trauma pack that was not standard issue. Her hands worked like they'd done this 100 times. Pressure bandage, tourniquet, Calm voice. Through the muscle, not the artery. You'll live if you don't get stupid. Hale caught himself staring. The woman they dismissed as dead weight was treating a gunshot wound with clinical efficiency in the middle of a firefight. Enemy fire slackened for a moment, reloads or repositioning. Hale tried his comms. Nothing but static, jamming. They were on their own. He reached for his belt and pulled the Crimson Phoenix flare, their last resort. He hesitated only a heartbeat before launching it into the sky. The night turned scarlet, shadows stretching like claws across the clearing. The gunfire came back harder. The flare wasn't just a cry for help, it painted a bullseye on their exact position. Hale pressed himself deeper into cover. Beside him, Spectre 9's eyes narrowed, tracking muzzle flashes with the detached calm of someone solving an equation. 3 firing positions north wall, 2 east ridge, command element near that outcrop. Machine gun nest west side. She spoke as if giving a briefing, not sitting in the middle of a kill zone. Hale stared. How the hell can you know that she met his eyes? And for the first time, there was something behind them. Not warmth decision, because I've been counting muzzle flashes, timing their rate of fire, and because this isn't my first ambush. Then she reached into her rucksack and drew out something no observer should have carried, a compact precision rifle. Matte black. Optics worth more than a staff sergeant's salary. She chambered a round with a sound more final than the gunfire around them. Hale froze. Spectre 9, you're not authorized. Neither are they. She cut him off, nodding toward the mercenaries systematically trying to erase his team. But they're still shooting at us. And then she slipped from cover, vanishing into the jungle like smoke. The next sound was different. A suppressed crack that didn't echo, just whispered. One of the enemy muzzle flashes winked out like a light switch. Silence where death had been seconds earlier. Maddox's eyes went wide. What the hell was that? Another crack. The machine gun nest went quiet. A third, a fourth. 90 seconds. And the disciplined crossfire began to collapse. The mercenaries shouted orders in Russian and Arabic, voices sharp with confusion. Their trap was unraveling, and then came the 5th shot. A command voice went silent mid-order. Panic replaced discipline. The jungle seemed to exhale. The SEALs looked at one another in disbelief. 5 shots, 5 kills, all invisible, and somewhere out there, Spectre 9 was just getting started. Silence pressed down like a weight. A minute ago, disciplined fire had shredded the clearing. Now the ridges were black, barrels cooling, Cruz's breath ragged. 5 shots, 90 seconds. The ambush dissolved. Lieutenant Marcus Hale lifted just high enough to scan North Ridge quiet. East dead, west machine gun gone. He tasted cordite and copper, and the bitterness of being wrong about the woman who'd saved them. Spectre 9 walked out of the tree line as if she'd never left. Rifle slung muzzle down, movements sharp and exact. She checked Cruz with brisk efficiency pulse. Bandage tension, then cranked the tourniquet tighter until he grunted. Hold still. You'll keep the leg, Maddox muttered. Rifle still tracking. Perimeter clear for 60 seconds, she said without looking at him. After that, expect company. This syndicate doesn't like radio silence. Hale tried his useless comms, static thick as fog. He turned to her, voice low. How long have you carried that rifle? Long enough to know you had no other option. A beat later, not all missions make it into your SEAL briefs. Tanaka wiped soot from his cheek. Those shots, same position multiple. Fire, move, break their mental map. Panic does the rest. Panic, Maddox said. They sounded professional. They were, right up until they weren't. The faint thrum of rotors began to build, low and far beyond the ridges. Extraction inbound, salvation and exposure. The Phoenix flare had worked, but it had painted their location for anyone listening. Hale forced himself back into command. Maddox, Tanaka 2-point sweep. Chew. Help me prep Cruz. Spectre 9. He hesitated. She didn't wait. Eyes north, she said, already melting into the foliage. They moved with drilled economy. The clearing told its story in fragments, brass under ferns, a broken radio, drag marks in loam. Whoever staged this ambush had expected to do the dragging. Not tonight. Tanaka returned. Too cold, no movement. He didn't need to add why. The rotor beat thickened the air. Spectre 9 spoke without looking up. 3 minutes on the ground, maybe less. Your flare lit half the highlands. You're coming with us. Hale pressed. No, different parameters. What parameters? The kind that keep your report short. Hale knew better than to push. Some walls weren't meant to be crossed. The Nighthawk flared over the trees, wash-ripping vines loose. The crew chief dropped, flashing urgent signals, casualties count secure. Hale answered fast, one urgent, others green. He glanced back. The light washed over stone and jungle, hunting for the woman who'd changed everything. She wasn't there. Spectre 9, he shouted. From somewhere too near to pin down, don't waste your window. Lieutenant. Cruz tugged Hale's sleeve. Sir, with respect. If that shooter wants to vanish, let her. I want to be on that helicopter. Hale breathed once, twice. Then he moved his men toward the bird. Extraction begins. Will the ghost step into the light or vanish for good? The Nighthawk dropped into the clearing, rotor wash turning vines to whips and shadows to knives. The crew chief shouted, waving them aboard. Hale and Chu dragged Cruz into the red-lit belly while Maddox covered arcs with a rifle that never rested. 30 seconds, the crew chief barked, eyes counting heads. He frowned. We're short. Observer separate exfil. Hale snapped. The chief's face said, I didn't hear that. His mouth said, copy. Hale scanned the edge of light. Nothing. Then she appeared calm. Rifle safe. Packed tight. 3 steps and she pressed something into his hand, a brass casing. Still warm, engraved with a slashed S9. Keep it, she said. Proof doesn't need witnesses. You could come with us. Hale tried. It was more plea than order. Different lanes. She said, then, almost merciful, your report will read unknown sniper. That's enough. Enough for who? For the ones who still need to sleep. Her eyes flicked to the tree line. Visitors in 5. 4. Now. Hale didn't see it. He believed her anyway. The crew chief chopped the air 2 seconds. Hale shoved the casing into his pocket. Spectre 9. She met his eyes once. Not all missions are in your SEAL briefs. Then she slipped back into Calidor's dark, vanishing as if she'd never existed. Up the crew chief yelled, and the Nighthawk tore free of the clearing. The rotor wash erased her outline from the grass. Inside the bird, Cruz clutched his bandaged leg. Maddox leaned close, shouting over the roar. Sir, what do you put in a report when the truth sounds like a ghost story? Hale turned the casing in his hand. That we were ambushed. That we survived. That an unknown sniper intervened. Details classified above our pay grade. Maddox nodded, shelving the weight. Chu stared out the door as the jungle folded into coastline. Then ocean. The Ironclaw Highlands swallowed its secrets behind them. Hale felt the casing heavy in his pocket, not a trophy, not a souvenir. A receipt, payment rendered in brass and blood. When clouds covered the shoreline and the adrenaline ebbed, he let himself imagine her moving below, a phantom tracking another mission no one would ever brief. Maddox touched his shoulder. Sir, you good? I will be, Hale said. He patted the pocket. We all will be. He looked out into the dark and left the last line for the audience. 5 shots, 90 seconds, no misses. What does that tell you? That sometimes a war can turn not on firepower, not on rank, but on the precision of one ghost in the dark. And remember the name Spectre 9, because legends aren't written in ink, they're written in brass. If this story hit you in the gut, hit like, ring the bell, and share it with someone who knows sometimes the deadliest force in the fight is the one you never see.